culture doesn't signify your ethnicity or your genetic influence. It's really just a range of ideas that you may have and a certain type of lifestyle you choose to lead. And as far as lowriders are concerned, part of it's an attitude. And all of us lowriders know what we're talking about when we say that attitude. We're all about self-expression. That's why everybody's paint job looks a little bit different. The look of everybody's car is slightly unique to their own personal touch. It's sharing of ideas, it's a respect for history. Whether it's in my 62 Impala or my 1936 Cadillac, when I'm sitting in the car, I immediately transport myself to that time. There were people who experienced the Depression, that experienced World War II, who at one point had probably driven in this car where we sit. And some of these gems that we call them have been sitting in a yard and rusting away, and we're able to take something that's been neglected and completely refurbish and make drivable again. It all started kind of back when I was a young teenager and being exposed to it. Started to go into some of the car shows and the cruise nights, and I would pitch in. They would tell me that if you'll help us clean it and whatnot, then we'll take you out cruising. So that's kind of my first foray into it and how I got exposed to it. My car is a 1962 Chevrolet Impala hardtop. It has a 350 motor with a 350 transmission, automatic. It has airbags, so it's air suspension, customized stereo. I also have 14x7 Dayton wire rims, and it has a custom black paint job with red metal flake in it. I'm still not finished with it. Most of us car guys will say we're never finished. So there are a few other things I still want to do, but for me, I wanted something that more or less was something I can kind of get in and go and kind of work on along the way. So I've been able to enjoy it. It was a dream of mine always to have an Impala. That was kind of like, for me, a benchmark of a lowrider. And specifically the 62. When I was like 13, 14 years old, I was taken down to Whittier Boulevard, and I got to see all these different cars, beautiful cars, and the music and everything that was going on. And I fell in love with the Impalas. They just had sleek lines, they were graceful, and they were sexy. They were a work of art to me, really. So at the same time, it was something that I knew in the back of my mind that I wanted, but of course when I was 13, I couldn't afford it. As a matter of fact, I took every penny that I got from graduation from high school, and I bought a 64 Chevy Impala. And I didn't know it, but the engine was blown. So what I did is I took the entire engine apart using what they call a Chilton manual, and it was actually a hard copy manual that you read and flow through, and that's how I learned how to rebuild an engine. I was introduced and explained and integrated with other cultures through the car passion, specifically in lowriding. I grew up here in Los Angeles. It's heavily been dominated by a Chicano culture. I'm half Japanese and half Caucasian, so I'm completely different. However, I had been embraced with all of my Chicano friends and people who I've met throughout lowriding that I felt like I became one of them. I belonged to a car club called the Playboys. It was established in 1952 in East Los Angeles, and which, we all know that's kind of the heart of where lowriding it started. So for me, the tie into history was something that was very, very important to me. Also knowing a little bit about the history of the club was hugely important to me because one of my very good friends, his grandfather was actually a founding member of the club. He had the plaque actually up in his garage. At that point, we'd asked him to be able to kind of revive the club. Sure enough, they gave us their blessings. So we proudly fly the plaque, but at the same time, we have that connection, a legacy connection. It seems like with lowriding and with the car culture that I'm involved in, my passion, to me, it really kind of shaped me into who I am and the type of person that I am and how I interact with others and, really sometimes how to be a man and how to communicate with other men. So what I like about it really is the camaraderie. I've developed, serious lifelong friendships with some of these people. Really the common denominator was the car, but really we realized that we had a lot more in common than we had in difference. I was born in Yokohama, Japan. My father is 100% Japanese. My mom is Caucasian. She's German and Welsh. My mom comes from a background of kind of wealthy socialites and upper crust of American society. In a very early age, shortly after World War II, my grandfather, who was in the shipping business, actually moved the entire family out to Japan. And my father came from a blue-collar, Japanese family. My mom came from a wealthy American family, and it was kind of ironic that they met. It was kind of a Romeo and Juliet story. They worked at Japan Airlines together, and they met in Japan. So they eloped, and then I came along, and my sister came along, and we moved over here shortly after. My parents decided to buy a home and kind of set roots down in Diamond Bar, California, which is kind of in the eastern suburbs of Los Angeles. It was a town that is a multicultural community, and I'm blessed looking back on it to know that I was raised with so many other races and cultures and ethnicities that we all got along well, so racism wasn't a big thing. I had big dreams. I liked sports. I played soccer all through high school, and I played through college at UC San Diego. I played a couple years out of the country, played soccer professionally. Back in my day, I actually made the final cut of playing for the U.S. Olympic soccer team. So I was playing soccer, but really my dream ever since I was in 5th grade is I knew I was going to be a surgeon. I was going to be a doctor. I have a degree in molecular biology, so I was dead set on it. I worked at a hospital for 3 years, and it was about my 3rd year of college that all the doctors I worked with said, your personality isn't cut out to be a physician. You need to spread your wings. You have so many more opportunities. So I kind of took the advice of people who I was mentored under to say, this is not my calling in life. For a little while, I coached soccer until I figured out what I wanted to do, and then I really realized that I was good at sales. Every time I got a part-time job, it was always sales-oriented. I moved to Los Angeles from San Diego for the land of opportunity to find a job, and I got a good job as a salesperson. So fast-forwarding to around the end of the decline of the housing industry, I realized that I didn't want to be in the industry that I was in, which was selling home furnishings, because it seemed like it was kind of a dead end. At that point, I was pretty fortunate because 2 of my colleagues actually had experience in fundraising. We started a business in which we started raising money for high school athletic groups and high school bands. I had just really established my business in Los Angeles. Everything was going well. My world got turned upside down. At the time that my dad was diagnosed with cancer, we were all shocked. But what was even more shocking is that less than 90 days later, he passed away. The loss of my father was the most difficult part of my life thus far. My father was old-fashioned. He kind of raised with a quiet mouth and an iron fist, so he didn't really show a lot of affection, but you kind of knew there was always that unconditional love. I had worked my entire adult life into establishing who I was and where I was, and I completely shut all of that down because the most important thing was to be close to my family. As sad as it was, I think it's really shaped who I am as a business person and shaped who I am as a man emotionally. I was able to realize that it didn't matter where I was and what I was doing, that if I was willing to put in the hard work and I was fortunate enough to have good people assist me along the way, that I could be successful doing anything I wanted to, wherever I wanted to be. Like anything that's wild and wacky and off the wall, the idea came to me about raising money for high school athletic groups and bands via selling mattresses. The name of my company is Custom Fundraising Solutions, the original mattress fundraiser. To date, we're in over 32 states. We have over 65 locations nationally. We've raised over $25 million for various high schools and athletic groups, as well as community groups. We'll utilize their gymnasium or their cafeteria or their band room, and we'll set up a beautiful mattress showroom. Some of the groups we work with have been able to raise money via our fundraiser to go to the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade in New York, that have brought their bands out to California for the Rose Parade. These public schools have dwindling budgets, and they have an increasing inability to be able to raise this type of money to be really competitive. One thing that I'm most proud of in our business is that we're able to enrich these students' lives because we're giving them a vehicle not only to raise money for themselves, but to raise money for their entire program. One of the most frustrating things in the world is seeing how people only see where you are now. They didn't really get to see the fact of all the times of struggle, all the times of failure, all the times that you thought maybe you're headed down the wrong path. Those are the times that really kind of define your character and who you are. Looking back on it, if I were to talk to myself, I would say just follow your heart and follow your mind. I didn't have a direction in life. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I thought I knew what I wanted to be, but I learned at a young age that that's not exactly where my life was headed. One of the things that excites me the most about the future is the fact that I can shape it. I can create it. Just like I can with my cars, I'm expressing myself. But I've been blessed with establishing the type of business that we have in which I'm enriching other people's lives to kind of expand and to dream on their own. If somebody looks at me and sees the cars that I have and see the success that I've reached professionally, all that I've done is I've succeeded one more time than I failed. Life doesn't give you a roadmap. That's the beauty of driving the old cars that I do, is that it doesn't know where it's been, it doesn't know where it's going to go. We just get to enjoy it and take it for what it's worth. My name is Chris Fujii. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a lowrider role model.